Hi and welcome to another episode of ReaperTV. In this week's video we're going to be taking a look at how we can work with MIDI using the Step Editor. Now, the Step Editor is a great way of speeding up the process of inputting MIDI notes all aligned to a grid where you don't need to worry about quantizing afterwards. So let's check out how we can do all that right now. So let's start off by inserting a copy of EZdrummer. So I'm just going to simply right click, insert a track from template, and I've got a track template set up with an instance of EZdrummer and everything routed the way I want it. So I can just say I'll use the default drum track. That'll do everything I want. There we go. So I've just created a 4-bar selection, choose my EZdrummer track and just insert a MIDI track. So I've got everything set up now, ready to go. Let's just double click on the MIDI editor, and now let's just do the final little bits in there. So I'm going to come to File and choose Note Names, and I'm going to load the note names in from a file. So we're going to use EZdrummer 2 MIDI note names, and all I'm going to do for this example, just to make the interface look a little bit easier, is enlarge everything and go up to View, and we'll come down and we say Show Hide Notes, and we say Hide and use Note Rows and Note Names. So we've now cleared everything up, so I don't have a pile of empty spaces in there, and I've got everything laid out as I want it to be. So there's the first thing done. Everything's ready to go. So first of all, let me just explain what step editing actually does. Normally, when you're working in the MIDI editor, you can either hit the record button, it'll start playing, and you can record your instruments through your keyboard or your interface live. And that will record it exactly as you play it, like you would any other instrument. The alternative way of doing it then is that you simply go in and sequence each note individually. So for example, if I want to put hi-hats in, I can just come over to the beat that I want, double click, add that in there, keep on going through until I get everything I want, which is fine, but can be kind of slow. So step editing allows us to kind of get the best of both worlds. We can use a keyboard or an interface to input our notes, and we can then jump to the next note in the sequence and add the next item we want. So for example, if we want to do a kick drum, we might say we want to put that on every 4th beat. We could change that to quarter notes, and then you can see now we could just put a kick drum on every single quarter note. But the thing that you have to remember is when you're using such an interface like a keyboard, like I'm going to use in this example, the velocity is actually recorded as part of the step sequencing. So we can go in and change that afterwards, but it's something to be aware of, that will actually have an effect on the live recording that you're doing through step sequencing. So what we need to do is if we come up to Options, and you can see we've got Use All MIDI Inputs for Step Recording. That's disabled by default, so if I enable that now, and we just go back to the beginning of our grid, if I start hitting any note on there, you'll see once I hit it, it puts the MIDI note in and then moves to the next beat. Simple. So we can use that in conjunction with the keyboard arrow keys to move things around. So let's just say that I want to put this on every other beat. I can simply come to this, I can hit the key, I can use the left or right arrow keys to move forward and backwards. So we'll move over one, to the next one. So as you can see, as I hit, the velocity is actually recorded as part of it. So the harder I hit, the more velocity is going to be applied to that particular note. So next up, let's put a snare beat in there. So I don't want that to be on the same first quarter note, so we'll move that over using the right arrow key, hit my snare, right arrow key. And as you can see, the velocity gets lower and lower and lower the lighter I hit the key as I move over to the right hand side. And let's just do the same now for the hi-hats or whatever we're going to use on there. So for this, we'll put the hi-hats on every single quarter note. So make sure I rewind back. And there we go. So if I rewind that back now and play it, you'll get the full drum beat all recorded through step sequencing. So even though we've done this through step sequencing, we can still come in and change any of the velocities of any of those particular instruments or parts of the drum kit. So we can just Right click to select all the hi-hats. We can then just drag all those up to give them full velocity, drag them back down to give us a bit of headroom. Same goes with the kick. We can just drag that up, give us full velocity, drag that back down, and finally rim shot. We can also easily come in and choose to humanize these notes. So we can just say, well, I want to humanize everything. So we'll give it a click on the humanize option. We can come up there and we can adjust the timing, the velocity, and the timing bias, whether we want all the notes in this particular sequence or just selected notes. And we can just hit that and you'll see that these will then change to give it some random velocity and timing and so on, just to give it that sort of human feel. Now, even though we've got the option set to use MIDI inputs for step recording, we can still use any of the other methods that we want to record. So we can still just come in and just manually input any of the notes, and we can control the velocity and everything exactly the same as we would any other time. We can double click to remove those, or we can right click and select everything on a particular MIDI channel and then press the delete key to get rid of it completely. And we can drag and move things around if we want to. So we can say that we want to remove the hi-hats. Just right click, choose different hi-hats, and we'll drag those down. All the same options are available there. The only thing to consider when you're doing this is to remember to come into options and uncheck that. Otherwise you will find every time you press a key on your interface, you know, the keyboard and so on, it will start automatically adding that into your MIDI sequence, which can be a little bit annoying if you forgot to turn it off. So remember, once you finish your session and you don't want to use this anymore, come back into the options and choose uncheck to uncheck use all MIDI inputs for step recording, and that's going to turn that back off. And now hitting the keyboard isn't going to record that action as part of the MIDI track. So pretty simple and straightforward. Well, that's how we can do the basics of step editing using Reaper. I hope you found this video useful. I hope it's something that's going to help you speed up the process of creating your MIDI-based tracks. If you did find this useful, don't forget to hit that subscribe button below to be kept up to date with all the new content we add every single week. If you've got any comments, questions, or feedback on this video or anything else we've got on the channel, please pop those in the comment section below. And until next time, happy mixing.